Um,
Sorry about that, John. I wasn't recording. Now we are.
Should we start again, everyone?
No.
And
Sorry.
so want to wish everyone a good evening. That's about all.
Thanks, Armin. Speaking of old timers on the UNNC docket.
Yes, Armin
And Vietnam veteran.
I am a Vietnam veteran.
All right.
United States Army. I'm an entitlement specialist and outreach government relations specialist, and we are assisting with the community outreach for the Crenshaw Crossing project. I'm a born and raised in LA, been very, very involved in the Crenshaw, West Adams, Leimert Park area. President of the Crenshaw Chamber of Commerce since 2013, and we have been promoting business ever since I've been there. We just want to see this community grow, and grow. Glad to be with you tonight.
Thanks, Armin. My gosh, we're going right down the list. Long time UNNC participant, Donna Jones.
Sorry, it takes me forever to get rid of the mute. Hi, everybody. Donna Jones from the West Adams Avenues. Been with UNNC since we sat at the table and organized it. So
Great.
that is a very long time ago. And my family has been in the area, Mid-City area, forever. And my mother came here from Fort Worth and moved to the area when she paid $6,000 for her first house.
Whoa! Love it.
Whoa.
Love it.
So needless to say, and that was on Palm Grove when, as I tell everybody, I didn't know I wasn't Jewish. But now, in the West Adams Avenues, she paid a little bit more. Nice to see everybody. Have a nice evening. And I am not a Vietnam veteran.
Thanks, Donna.
John,
Yeah.
we're watching you search the internet. Did you mean for us to be doing that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to look up
Okay.
the.
I was wondering why that was there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was teeing up for the next item, believe it or not. I was actually doing work for the next item, which I didn't do earlier. So I'll find a different venue. Jennifer and Jen, I assume are the same person with the same last name.
Oh, and she's muted.
I am sorry. I'm having bandwidth issues tonight. Normally I would try to be on video. I can't tell if I am.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to jump off video when I present, and I'm here to present item 5. I am the daughter of both a daughter and daughter-in-law veterans, so I feel like I'm at home here with this crowd. I have been working on Crenshaw Crossing for the last 4 years now, and I'm excited to be back here. Hopefully, before what will be our final public hearing in December in front of City Planning Commission. So we wanted to get in front of UNNC one more time. And I look forward to walking you through a presentation in a few minutes.
Great. Thanks, Jen.
Jen, let me ask you, which of your 2 IDs should I be making a co-host? Probably the one you were just on,
goodness.
right?
No, actually, you know what? If you could make it the other one, that's my computer, not my cell phone. So
Okay.
the Jen McEllier, please. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. Jasmine Johnson. I'm at-large representative of the UNNC board, and I've been on the board for about a year now. Good to meet you all and to be here.
Great. Brittany.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Liu. I'm a neighbor of the area for about 3 years and a community organizer with Redeemer Community Partnership. Yeah, glad to be here.
And finally, Erica.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Freeman. I work alongside Jennifer on the Crenshaw Crossing project. I work with West Angela CDC. I missed the whole veterans part, but my dad is also a Vietnam vet, and just happy to be here and looking forward to the rest of the meeting.
And that's it. Those are our participants for the evening. So the rules of the Planning and Zoning Committee, based on the UNNC rules that we've adopted, is everyone who is present is a participant if you are a stakeholder. And so if we have a vote at all this evening, everyone is invited to participate as you feel is appropriate. So that was item number 2, welcome and call to order. Item number 3 is public comments. Anyone who has a public comment for anything that is not agendized this evening, you're welcome to speak for 1 to 2 minutes per speaker. Please raise your hand either virtually, or if you are on camera, raise your hand actually. Anybody? Laura?
Just a quick update. The housing element was at the City Council Housing Committee last week and the City Council Planning and Land Use Management Committee yesterday. And then of course it got so bogged down and was a 3-hour meeting that I frankly do not even know what they did at it by the end. And so I don't know if it's going back there or not, but we'll be keeping watch here at UNNC and we'll let you know.
Any other public comments? And I realize we didn't approve the agenda, which we'll do next. Any other public comments?
I see 2 hands raised, John.
Oh, there we go. Marisha.
Sorry, no.
No, you don't have a comment? Okay, Donna.
Just wanted to give an update on the 4th Avenue property, Myrna's property there at 4th Avenue and Washington. It is now with city attorney and the parking lot is locked up.
Great.
Some success.
Great. For a little history for everybody, that is a case that's been before us, God, for 10 years now. A single family house was torn down right behind a commercial district and they've been using it for commercial parking, which is not allowed. So I'm glad there's finally making progress on that next years later. So I'm going to go back retroactively to item number 2 with the approval of the agenda. We have 3 items today to discuss, items 4, 5, and 6, and then any follow-up cases for item number 7. Can I have, if anyone has any comments, there are none, if I can have a motion to approve the agenda?
John, I can move to approve the agenda.
Okay, do I have a second? Well, I will second that. So everyone in favor, please raise your hand virtually or actually, and I'll try to keep count.
I'll do
1,
both.
2, 3. See 4, and when we do this 5, and any dissent. Let's go with that. I'm going to lower everyone's hand. Any dissent? Okay, we have no dissent, so motion passed. This is our agenda for the evening. The first item Laura brought to the table, and I'll hand it over to her. It's a discussion about a proposed draft citizen SB 9 resolution, which I believe is being sent to Sacramento. Everyone who, I'll let Laura explain what the resolution is, but what I was looking for when I was publicly searching the internet, I have now posted it in the chat. It's a nice little piece from Mercury News up in San Jose that gives a synopsis of SB 9 and SB 10. Really easy to understand about what they are. SB 9 was passed a few weeks ago, or maybe it's getting to a few months ago, and it basically allows in the state of California a single family parcel, if it's sized properly, to be divided into 2 parcels, and each of those parcels can contain 2 units. And there are lots of rules around it. You can't be a developer and buy single family houses and tear them down. It can only be done if you're a resident at the parcel, and there are covenants that are involved as well. But apparently there's a draft now, which is a response that I think we're sending to the city, or we're proposing to send to the city. And Laura, if you can explain that, that'd be great.
Right. So this is not UNNC's proposal, but rather a proposal that was developed by some citizens advocacy group or another that's been really paying attention to SB 9. And they basically are saying, okay, it's passed, Now what do we do? So they may have some other political advocacy, like gathering signatures to do, you know, a proposition and a vote against it by the voters. But in the meantime, like many land use pieces of legislation in Sacramento, this one allows cities to do an enabling ordinance that defines for the individual city how it will be done. And so that you see on this, so this is being circulated to many neighborhood groups, neighborhood councils, and other entities throughout the state. And it landed in UNNC's lap, in part because one of the entities here in Los Angeles that's circulating it is an organization called United Neighbors, which is not us, but a lot of people think it is us. And they're wondering what we're doing about it. And it's like, I don't know, maybe we're doing nothing, or maybe we should put it on our agenda. So the first part of it, I've got this up on the screen. I think you can all see it. It's a draft resolution that a city could use to adopt an enabling ordinance, and they could also write something different. So the first part is whereas, essentially whereas SB 9 was adopted, it eliminates most discretionary review, it exempts projects from environmental review, and so on and so forth. Those are the whereases, but then it keeps going to say there's not necessarily a sufficient time. I don't know if you can see when I do the cursor kind of in a circle, not a sufficient time for a publicly considered implementation ordinance to be developed, publicly reviewed, and adopted by January 1. So in the short term, the city can and must, or should, develop a memorandum of understanding to obligate city departments and agency to abide by interim rules. And the city should also establish a minimum thresholds by which certain SB 9 projects cannot be ministerial. So for example, if it's in an HPOZ, it's exempted. But in any case, these are the whereases, and then the page 2, and this is all in our agenda packet, is a list of standards to establish, basic precepts to establish, which I think also would be proposed for our final legislation, meaning citywide, not UNNC's final legislation. So the couple that I thought were interesting is this number 1, objective zoning, subdivision and design standards. The bill authorizes the city to impose objective standards. So this is a suggestion that LA does adopt objective standards. The city, number 2, the city's not required, and this is suggesting shall not allow any additional units or structures such as ADUs on these split lots that would already add units. So that, you know, I don't know where UNNC would go on this one because we like housing. And then the next one, number 3, is about parking. Should it be required? The next one, number 4, setbacks, and SB 9 does allow the city to choose to require setbacks that are consistent with the terms of the bill. So the city should or shall require setbacks of up to 4 feet from the side and rear lot lines in all SB 9 projects, and under circumstances that are not expressly exempted from such a requirement. The bill also requires that every SB 9 applicant provide an affidavit confirming that they'll be a resident. To fulfill this obligation, the city should require the applicant to sign and record such an affidavit, and not from the moment that they apply, but from the moment it's available for occupancy. This next one, number 6, I think is not part of SB 9. This is a suggestion that there be an affordable covenant, but I don't think that's a requirement of SB 9. John will probably know.
It is not.
It is not, because I think that's one of the big criticisms. Number 7, impact development fees. Not sure what SB 9 says about that. And we can come back and discuss it because I really don't know. And then number 8, which is the one I'm personally most interested in, they're suggesting in this that that special districts should be expanded beyond just designated historic districts and should include as well equestrian zone area. I mean, you can see they say HPOZs, but they already are. Equestrian zone areas, hillside areas with substandard streets, wildlife corridors, habitat blocks, high fire and high wind zones. And I would say, as a person living here, and it should also be specific plans, character residential overlays. And if they're going to have specific zone exemptions, then let's do the exemptions on the places that are already adopted as overlays. And that would include, I think, CDOs, community design overlays. I mean, there's a whole series of these different kinds of overlays throughout the city. Crenshaw specific plan, although really Crenshaw, SB 9 doesn't apply to Crenshaw Boulevard. And then as well, the number 9, SB 9 authorizes the city to deny an SB 9 project if it, with written findings that the project will have a specific adverse impact. But I think this is saying the city really should do that because, as many of us know who advocate, the city almost never finds cumulative impacts or adverse impacts. But anyway, I feel the important ones for UNNC to talk about, but you guys can have different opinions, would be the number 8, the special district exemptions, and number 4, the setbacks. And we should discuss number 2, but I don't know how UNNC would feel about saying no ADUs. And number 1, I think it's a really good idea to have objective design standards. And John and I and others have been engaging in that conversation for a while because we can't seem to get them to say what they are. Just they're saying we'll know it when we see it. So anyway, that's what this is. We can have a discussion and then decide to do nothing. We can have a discussion and decide to do something, and we could. and I don't know if I should leave this up on the screen or what. John, should I leave it up?
I think you should. Just to clarify, a lot of these items, I think, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, are basically saying are consistent with the SB 9 as it's written. Because SB 9 it's city can pass something that's if you don't do it, if the city doesn't do anything, SB 9 as Sacramento has written it prevails. So the city provides, as Laura said, an enabling ordinance. So number 1, number 2, I believe they're saying basically.
All of these are saying do an enabling ordinance, and these are the things we want in it.
But a lot of these are consistent with SB 9 as it's written.
Okay.
And there are a few in here that are not consistent with SB 9 as it's written. As Laura said, number 6, number 8 specifically. But I know number 5 is that you have to reside where you are. But it also says, but number 3, for example, or I'm sorry, number 4 with the setbacks, it's basically saying, do not do less than what Sacramento says. It says, do what Sacramento says, but don't do less. And I think parking, I don't believe Sacramento, I think that's consistent with what Sacramento has written, but don't do less. So what they're doing, and they're imploring the city to adopt the SB 9 items as written, but don't do things that are beyond that make it even more liberal or more whatever you want to define it. So except for the affordable covenant, which is not part of it, and expanding the special district exemptions. And
well, I see in the commentary in the red, John,
Yeah.
It is saying that number 6, SB 9 does not prohibit
Correct.
an affordable component, but cities must essentially individually act on it.
Correct. But it doesn't require one either. So it's basically,
Correct.
This is an enhancement of it versus make it even more so than what it is. So I think what it is we can, as Laura said, we can talk about this as it's written, and if we vote to accept this as written, we'd be consistent with a number of other neighborhood council, which might be adopting this or not. I'm not sure how they're parsing each item, as if, some neighborhood councils rejected 3, but accepted 7, and I'm not
Right.
sure. So I think that's up to us, how we
Correct.
want to send a signal to the city about what UNNC wants.
Well, I personally think that if we're not objecting to ADUs as additional structures in number 2, I would personally want that totally tied to number 6. Meaning if you're going to get more units on the more units, for sure there should be an affordable component, don't you think? This
So I
is
think
already more units.
Let's open it up. If anyone has any questions, clarifications about the items here, or if you have a comment or an opinion, please raise your hand and let's start talking about it. Anybody? Oh my God, everyone's here to talk to you, Armin.
Marisha has her hand
Oh,
up, I think.
Marisha, thank you. Marisha, go ahead, please.
So I agree, not completely, that there should be an affordable component to the ADUs, solely because it is a person's personal real property. So if they're utilizing the ADU for market rate rent or for affordable rent, I think that it should be left up to the homeowner or property owner. I think that if there needs to be some type of provision or restriction, maybe if a property is able to utilize the ADU law ordinance with an addition of more than one dwelling, maybe the second ADU could be affordable, or if the property is owned by an entity versus it being an individual, or maybe an individual that has in excess of 5 or 10 properties or whatever, then that's like a different type of person versus an individual desiring to benefit in any way, because the purpose of the ADU could be for their child, for their adult child, for their retirement income, for for their children. It could be for themselves. All of those different factors are, I believe, what's in play. That's all.
So I can't raise my hand, but I'm going to respond. I agree with you, Marisha, that so one of the provisions of this is number 5. It can't be a developer can't own 10 of these unless they move from place to place. I think you have to live there for at least 3 years. So this is geared towards people who live at a place and they want to expand for whatever reason they have, whether it's to generate income or retirement property, have their family move on. So it seems to me requiring an affordability component would restrict absolutely those people who might benefit the most from it. And except if it's a family member and they're not charging them. So to me, that's adding a layer of regulation that would prohibit, or not prohibit, that would reduce the number of units provided. I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if you are willing to provide an affordable unit, whether it's to your family or someone from the outside, that there is some assistance there, free plan check, reduced plan check, expedited plan check, anything that makes it easier to build, because these things will be very expensive to build, very time consuming. And I'm thinking if there's an incentive for people to provide affordable units, which will reduce their income, but gives something in return that is short of paying for it with a subsidy, that might help them. Maybe it is a subsidy, maybe it is a program that you can apply for. So I would like to hook it to, if there's an affordability component, hook it to that so it doesn't deny people who don't have the means to build it, that they aren't denied income if that's what they actually need, or if they do want to do an affordable unit, that they can have help doing that. Any other comments on that one, which is number 6 with a sprinkling of 5 in there?
Laura's hand is up.
Yep, Laura.
Yeah, well, I'm actually, again, almost thinking that number 6 is not right. But on that number 2, where it says that the SB 9 obligates the city to allow 2 units per lot and 1 lot split. So a total max of the obligation is max at 4 units on what now becomes 2 lots. What this is saying is that the city is not required and shall not allow additional units or structures such as ADU, nor any further lot splits. So I have no problem with the no further lot splits, and I'm surprised if SB 9 didn't address that, because how small can you split it? But it seems to me that it would be okay to not allow any additional units or structures such as ADUs, unless there's an affordable covenant on the additional ADU, would kind of do some, keep with the spirit of SB 9, but also somehow do, of 4 units on a single lot, and somehow yet create, handle the number 6 and create some affordable housing. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like number 6 is going beyond. While I'm in total agreement that we need more affordable housing, and I'm totally opposed to all of these initiatives that just are suggesting building housing and not building affordable housing, I think number 6 is not in the spirit of SB 9. And if we're supposed to stick to the intention of the law, then we should figure out resolutions and things to do that are in the spirit of the law, not against it.
So the only comment I think 2 is basically saying your minimum is correct. And I think in a lot of our parcels, which are 5, 6, 7,000 square feet, the minimum lot size is 1,200. So a lot of our lots can't be split more than twice, and then 2 units per unit, 2 units per parcel. So I think it's basically
where does the 1,200 come from, John? The 1,200.
It's in the ordinance. A parcel cannot be smaller than 1,200. So it's 1,200. So your parts are divided into 4. You have to be a minimum of 48.
So for me, where I have a nearly 10,000 square foot lot, or 9,000 something, SB 9 would allow me to split it and then split it again. And then maybe split it, one of them again.
I'm not sure about that. I think there's a maximum of 4 units, 2 parcels, 4 units, but I have to look at I don't want to open up my the thing I left in the chat, but I think it's explained in there.
Got it.
Just look it up.
Okay, well, anyway, the one I'm personally most interested in is number 8, because if we're going to send a message to the city council, hey, adopt enabling legislation, then I want them to keep their promises made to citizens all over town when they created these different overlays. I mean, to me, it's that simple. If you've got a community design overlay, if you have a character residential overlay, if you have there's 3 or 4 legacy single family neighborhood overlays in South LA and Southeast LA. I mean, if you made promises to everybody who lived there, and you have the opportunity to keep the promise because there's exemptions allowed in SB 9, I think the city should do it. And I mean, there's probably a nicer way to say that. And I do understand as well that in other parts of town, of the city, they're looking at different things like, well, I'm not sure I would call equestrian zoned areas with 20,000 square foot lots the same thing as an HPOZ, but it does seem to me that if there is this opportunity in SB 9 to exempt special districts, we should be asking them to actually do that.
Any comments on that? I see Marisha.
I just wanted to say that I agree again with Laura, where she mentions the different characteristics and the different zones and overlays that we have. That's something that I totally don't want to mess with. And I would like to restrict. That's the whole purpose of us having the preservation zones and some type of unity and conformity with the aesthetics and our structures.
Okay, thanks, Marcia. Teresa?
Sorry, thank you, John. I just joined. I don't know if Laura mentioned it or not, but I sit on the Community Forest Advisory Committee, CFAC, and they are sending in agreement with this letter.
Great, thank you.
I didn't mention it, Teresa, thank you.
I, for one, I think, special districts is too broad. I can see NIMBY written all over this. There'll be special districts everywhere. Equestrian zone sounds very restrictive and elitist. They'll pull out, NIMBYs will pull out anything they can to start regulating this. And it's the whole point of this is to say, it is not a harsh thing. It's 4 units. And it basically rolls back what the elitist exclusive, some might say, just exclusive, racially exclusive, why R1 even exists today. And I don't know the exact history of R1, but I know doesn't go back to the 1920s when we do have bungalow courts mixed in with single family houses living pretty quietly together. So I'm skeptical of number 8. And though I support all these things in theory, it just seems to open the door to restrict until nothing happens again. Right. So I would not be in favor of number 8.
Well, John, what do you do then with, I'm devil's advocating here, what do you do with all of these promises? And that's what they are. They're in writing. They were adopted by City Council throughout South LA. Okay. Throughout South LA and Southeast LA. There's, again, 11, at least 14 or 15 of these special districts that are not HPOZs, but everyone was told they would be treated as if they were HPOZs, and that the only differences would be that they don't have a board. That's, in other words, staff would make decisions, and they wouldn't have preservation plans. They would just follow Secretary of Interior standards. So for us, this is for UNNC and South LA. Why wouldn't we do a number 8 special district exemption, but focus on what our communities were promised?
I would say those are historic. So they were very careful about saying historic districts are exempt. So I would say that they're adjacent to that. But when you start layering in, the whole word special is just so open. And I'm going to say their promises, all R1 is a promise, R3 is a promise, and R1, what kind of promise was that? I mean, we're talking about state law, and to me, this has been considered and passed.
Oh, I'm sorry, weren't special districts exempted? Isn't this just defining what they are? I don't know.
I think it just, I'd have to look at, I don't need the ordinance right in front of me. I think it just said historic, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I would say, I don't, state laws change, and this is the state law. And to me, it by watering it down will mean it's meaningless. And,
so why wouldn't character residential overlays, which are historic, be included?
Then I would say that is adjacent to what was passed in the law. So I think to me, I think that seems acceptable to have, to be historic adjacent is in the spirit of the law, even if it might not be historic district. That one I could approve of, but not everything else that's layered in here.
Okay, and let me just ask,
equestrian zoned areas just.
Oh, no, I didn't write it. I didn't write this.
I know.
I'm just saying, we're looking at something someone else wrote. And then what about, because they did exempt historic districts, but the city of LA doesn't keep track very well of the, there's so many little pocket national register districts that were adopted by consent, like 31st Street west of Arlington, when they utilized, when the city utilized federal funds, this, over decades, to do this, that, or the other public improvement project, they had to do Section 106 federal reviews, and occasionally they had to adopt by consent that these were National Register districts. So you really see them all over Jefferson Park, frankly. And I know that much of Jefferson Park's also an HPOZ, but these most local cities are not trekking that level of district, but they're real and they're on the state register. So what do we do? Do we talk about that as well, or is that just too arcane?
So in the interest of time, we're 45 minutes in.
Oh,
almost.
sorry.
So I would just say, I don't know if we want to, I have a problem, number 7, I understand that also has NIMBY written all over it to make it harder for people, especially
Right.
people with fewer means, to make it so. So I don't know how you can nuance that to say to apply to not have to pay fees, so you can make it so because you want to have your extended family move in as you build wealth on your single family lot. So a lot of these have NIMBY written all over them. So I am in favor of accepting SB 9 at its minimum standards, not going more than, but having further regulation on it to make it more difficult, or to make it, to me, it's just like, it's just NIMBY in clothing and sheep's clothing. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I don't agree with any of these 7, 8, and I could be on board with the affordable one if assistance is giving to people who are wanting to make their split lots affordable. Marisha, thanks for raising your hand.
I also disagree with the imposing of fees. Even if you give comparison to large scale developers, the way that they run from cities that charge excess fees, and literally how they won't build, develop, step foot in. I think that placing a restriction on a homeowner, and the whole issue is obtaining real property and obtaining wealth from that. So placing those type of restrictions in addition to what the cost is going to be, and if you attempt to force affordable versus market rate, those are way too many restrictions, and you're basically messing around with people's money or potential money, short term and long term.
Also might add that someone who does this, if they bought their house 40 years ago and their tax payment is $3,000, this will triple, quadruple, quintuple, sextuple their taxes, and those, in theory, go to things like libraries and parks and city services and infrastructure. So, I think taxes, by their very nature with reassessments, would take care of that feeding of the public beast.
Absolutely true.
So any other, Jasmine? Thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw us off topic since folks were sort of going down a similar path. I just wanted to comment that it didn't look like it included the provision around not allowing short-term rentals, and I feel like that needs to be explicitly called out.
Yeah, that is part of SB 9. I think you can adopt it. You can't adopt anything less. So I think if we made a motion that says adopt all the elements of SB 9 at their minimum, that would be one of them. But yes, that is part of SB 9. You can't use it for less than 30-day rentals. I think it's what it says. But yeah, we could make a blanket statement on that includes our approval of that. Laura?
Yeah, I feel like we don't have enough consensus to come to a final recommendation now that would yield a 5-minute to 8-minute discussion at the board tomorrow.
Yep.
So should we therefore move this to where we look at it a little more and bring it back before December,
I think so. I think that's wise, because I do want to get on. We have a number of guests here who are eager to present their project. So we do have time. I think if nothing is done, you get the minimum state. And so I think if we can send a message to the city before they do their final adoption, I think that's good, Laura. And I would advocate that motion.
And you and I can slug it out in between, because if we can kind of get on the same page, it would probably be useful.
And if anyone has anything, we've heard a few comments. If anyone has any, so we have to, you can't deny state law unless you want to boot your Isaac Brian Isaac out of office. You know, we have to accept all this, at least at the minimum. So does anyone have any final comments that we can maybe start framing the next conversation to bring something to the table that we've gotten community input on? Marisha, I appreciate all your input, and Jasmine. Anyone else have anything to say? And Teresa. Teresa.
Me, John. I'm just sorry I came in late, but the reason this was brought to the CFAC committee was because of what's happening with trees. And when people are able to add additional units and ADUs in their backyard, they many times destroy trees. So maybe if we continue it to another time, I can have a fuller discussion on that part of it.
I think that might be something that'd be a objective regulation that you could do, not to block the density, but to enhance, say, if you're going to do this, we need this as a public benefit. And so I see that working. So I think that's a great idea. We can talk about. Any other comments? So any other comments? If not, I move to table this to the next time. If anyone has anything to add fodder to the next conversation, please email it to me and we'll talk about it next time. Second, or do we have to?
Chair can table.
Okay, I move to table it. If anyone objects, let me know. Okay, we're moving on. Now I've lost my agenda. Next up, we have Crenshaw, which is an update on the CPC case. 2019 5425 DB, which is a density bonus. M cup, something conditional use permit. I don't know what an M cup is. And Laura, do you know all these things?
Master CUP.
Thank you. SPP, site plan something. ZAI is a zoning administrator something. SPR, site plan review. PHP, no idea. You guys got the alphabet soup of alphabet soup. Anyway, so the applicant is here to present the large development that's going on just south of the Crenshaw Expo Line station. It is partially in the UNNC zone. I think the eastern half is in our zone, the western half is not. And so there's a couple of neighborhood councils chiming in on this. So, but a lot of our constituents live at least a train track away and a commercial district away from this project. So, but the applicant's here to present the project, which last time we looked at this, we did approve. It was an approval in concept of generally what they're doing. And so we have that on the books from this committee and the governing board. And so this is an update on what has happened, how it's been progressing. And I think maybe we can also hear about what kind of resistance mitigation, what other neighborhood councils are saying, and what you might be doing to change the project to help meet the needs of the community. So take it away, Armin. Are you doing this, or is this Tony? Is this your deal?
It will be Jen McLeay from WIDE. Jen has been making the presentations to this committee and the neighborhood council in the past, and we're going to rely on her to make the presentation again. And you guys are going to be very pleased with how this project has progressed from when we started 4 years ago.
Thanks for telling us how we feel.
Well,
okay,
thank you.
So Jen, please take it away. We look forward to seeing how it's happening.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And we've been in front of the UNNC, both Plum and governing board, several times. So I won't start from the beginning, but just a quick recap. You can see on the screen right now, just contextualize where the site is, just south of West Angeles Cathedral. This is a joint development where the land is owned by Metro, and the western site is owned by LA County and will continue to be owned by the public agencies. We will be ground leasing the site from them, and we won an RFP to be the developer in partnership with them. And that was way back in 2018. And since that time, we did numerous rounds of community outreach. We've partnered with West Angeles CDC. They are co-developer equity partner in this project. And we've met with, I think, with Tony and Armin's assistance, pretty much every major stakeholder multiple times throughout the outreach process. We officially submitted our entitlements at the end of 2019. And the reason we're here today is we wanted to brief you on the latest changes in advance of our final hearing, or what we hope is our final hearing in City Planning Commission, which is scheduled for December 16th. We did already have our SKIA related hearings. That's our CEQA document, which is it's a fairly new pathway for producing your environmental review. And the reason we were able to do a SKIA is because our project did not have any significant impacts that could not be mitigated. And that's also available to projects that are transit priority projects and provide a set number of housing units close to transit. And so to answer John's question from an opposition standpoint, we're very happy that we haven't had, and to date at any of the hearings, any negative public comment. We have been approached by the Carpenters Union. This will be a prevailing wage project with local hire. So I'm not sure if maybe there's some miscommunication on whether they're aware of that. So we're engaging in dialogue with them. But other than that, throughout the hearing process, we haven't had any objection. And I think that's because we've really pivoted this project significantly from the original program. And you'll see here, I mentioned to Laura, we're in the middle of sprucing up our renderings. So you'll see a combination of really detailed older renderings and sort of unrefined new renderings. We'll have new renderings before we go to CPC, which we can share with you. They're currently in production. We should have those in the next 10 days. But for now, this is sort of a placeholder, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's happened on the design front as well. But just to close the loop on sort of the evolution of this project, when we first submitted it, our proposal to Metro, we had 15% of the units set aside as affordable housing, and that's changed quite significantly over the course of the last several years, and I'll address that in the next slide. Just to give an overview of the project, as you can see, this is 2 buildings that straddle Crenshaw Boulevard heading north and south, and we're sitting, this building, if you can see my cursor on the eastern parcel, is sitting right on top of where the Metro Transit Plaza is today, where you'll enter the portal and head south on the LAX Crenshaw line when that opens to LAX, and ultimately the plan is that it'll extend north as well. And then here you have the east-west E line heading to downtown in Santa Monica. So in total, both buildings will house 401 units, and we are programming for 40,000 square feet of ground floor commercial. The majority of that is a grocer that's programmed to go into this site. And we're talking to a number of groups. That was a key component. I think we've talked about that in our meetings here previously, but the area is considered a food desert, and there's a huge demand for grocery options and fresh food options. So that's a key component of this project. But we also have commitments from Hilltop Coffee. They are looking at doing also a food concept at the project in addition to coffee. And then there's a co-working operator out of Inglewood that is going to partner with Hilltop and do co-working space and event space. So we're really excited about that as well. I'm going to touch upon the parking, which hasn't really changed since the beginning of this project. We have 502 parking stalls, and I think after the last meeting with UNNC, the adjacent neighbors, there was a lot of commentary about parking, that this is a TOD site, we should get rid of the parking, and that's really, candidly, planning's objective and Metro's objective is to really encourage people to abandon their cars and ride public transit. But there's also a very organized coalition of homeowners in Leimert Park, directly adjacent to the site, that have a lot of concerns that we're still sort of in a transition period between people fully utilizing public transit and you know, the lack of public transit allowing people to get all over the city in a reasonable amount of time, that there will be overflow parking if we underpark the project, and that overflow parking will spill into the community, and there's just a lot of concern about that. So we've reached a consensus with the neighbors. They were very concerned that our parking would be reduced, or that would be a condition of approval. And we've committed and negotiated with Metro to, at a minimum, stay at 502 parking stalls. And that equates to 1 stall per unit and 3 stalls for every 1,000 square feet of commercial. So that's 120 stalls allocated to the commercial, and then the balance is allocated to the residential. And Metro had previously wanted us to park at a far lower ratio, but we were able to get that ratio up through a negotiation with Metro and LA County. So there's been a lot of discussion around the parking. And Laura, I think the reason you probably got a lot of feedback following the last meeting was, and I think that was the board meeting for UNNC, was because there was sort of a long debate around whether this should have less parking. So that's where that stands right now. And we have a lot of communication with Crenshaw Manor, and it's really led by Brenda Ashby and Lynetta McElroy, and we have a lot of conversation with them about this project and where it's going. On the affordable piece, we increased the amount of affordable units to a 20% affordable set aside. That's what's in our entitlement request, but we are working on getting to 100% affordable, and I'll detail that on the next slide. And that's in large part to community feedback. That's really, you know, if you set aside 20% of the units, that's 81 units as affordable, you still have a very significant component at market rate. And unfortunately, in the way affordable housing is put together and how you have to get subsidies and tax credits, there really is no middle point in providing affordable housing. It's either 20% set aside with 80% market rate, or 100% affordable. And what we've been trying to do is come up with a way to have a broad range of incomes, because the feedback we got was, of the 81 units that were set aside, they're all set aside at 50% of area median income. And I'll give you well, let's go into the statistics of what that looks like. At 50% of area median income, you're paying about $1,000 for a studio, and that equates to a maximum income. So people who qualify at a maximum of 50% of AMI can't make more than $40,000 a year. And that scales depending on how many people are living in the unit. These are all set by HUD, and they get updated every single year, but it's countywide. And there's always this discussion about, well, the county really takes into account, you know, Santa Monica and Beverly Hills, and it really can skew the numbers. So we've really been focused on what is the community area median income. And in Crenshaw, more or less, the community income is closer to 80% of area median income, which is about $66,000, or up to $66,000. So we've been focused on providing a range, because we had people who were telling us, well, they make more than $41,000 a year, but they can't afford Culver City rents and they can't afford downtown rents. So there needs to be units set aside for people that sort of fall between what's considered market and 50% of AMI. And then we had a lot of people on fixed income who said, well, we can't afford $1,000 units. So, you know, you need something at a lower threshold as well. So what we have done is we've applied for project-based vouchers, and and the way we're doing that, that's available through the Housing Authority. We've applied for 100 project-based vouchers, which would allow us to be able to provide 100 units at 30% of area median income at these rents and this maximum income, and then 100 units at 50% of area median income, which equates to this rent and this maximum income, and then the balance 201 units at 80% of area median income, which equates to this rent and this maximum income. And that would then facilitate the project being 100% affordable. Now, the application process for getting project-based vouchers and the whole ability to do that is a pretty protracted process. And so we're midway through that with HACLA. But we don't want to stop our entitlement process. So we will be going to CPC offering up a condition of approval that, subject to our getting the project-based vouchers, we will make this a 100% affordable project with these income distributions throughout the project. So it's something we're very committed to doing. I don't want to speak on behalf of HACLA, but all their actions have shown us that they're very excited about the potential for putting together a project that has this range of affordability and really services so many different income needs throughout the local area, that I'm quite confident this will get done. But because it hasn't been completely finalized and signed, it's a pretty long just procurement process. We can't definitively say this is what the project will be offering until we have the documents signed with HACLA, but we are willing to make it a condition of our approval. So that's really the big update on the project program. We're really excited about it. It's, I think it's the right thing to do, but it's also very much addressing the many comments we received about the affordability in general and the range of affordability that is desired at this project. So I'll stop there for a second if anyone has any questions before getting into sort of the design changes.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, HACLA, everybody, is the housing authority of the County of Los Angeles. So that is a public entity that would be supplying the vouchers. I have a question about a few things about parking. If you had your druthers, how much parking would you provide? Or is this, and my thought is 502 parking stalls is very, very expensive. If they're all underground or most underground, they're going for about $50,000 a pop, which of course adds to the slings and arrows that you'll get from the LA Times about how expensive your housing is. If you had your druthers, what would you be providing, or is that what you want to provide? Are you okay with providing that?
It's a really tough question, because if you want to lease your property, people still drive cars, and it's very hard to convince Angelenos to give up their cars. And we've heard from a lot of people in the community that they still drive places. And in particular, there's a huge opposition to, well, this is now affordable housing, so people don't need cars. So we're very sensitive to having sort of the equal treatment of people where this market rate project versus an affordable project, that we keep the same amount of parking. And it is a balance between parking costs a lot of money to build, but at the same time, from a lease-up standpoint, it would be harder financially to feel confident that we would attract the amount and the type, just fill the buildings. I mean, people still need their cars, and with a sensitivity to the neighbors, I do think people would park in the community. What we have done, I mean, we have one per unit. So if we have a 2-bedroom unit or a 1-bedroom unit that's shared by a couple, they only get 1 stall. So it's about as low as we would want to go and still be able to convince a lender that this is financially feasible. And that's in large part to lenders being very conservative. I'd say they're not quite, they like to look backwards and say, well, historically, people have always wanted, 1.5 stalls per unit. It's just harder to get the financing in place, doing something that's a little bit more forward thinking. What we have done is we're decoupling the rent from parking. So if you don't take a parking stall, you pay lower rent. And that's really to encourage people who don't need their car or who are willing to give up a car to open up the space for someone else. I'll also say 3 per 1,000 for retail is very low. We didn't want to shoot ourselves in the foot and have vacant commercial, because we couldn't attract the retailers, because they want parking. Their grocery store, they want parking. So we need to make it viable from a commercial standpoint. I can show you in some renderings in a minute from other vantage points. We did make it future-proof. So there's a podium parking structure that could be taken down in the future when we are in a type of, public transit regime where people really are giving up their cars. and it can be replaced with more housing. So we have kept some of the parking out of the ground. The planning staff is not happy. They like to see all parking underground, but we also recognize that it's really, really a waste of money to build parking underground because it can't really be reutilized the way a parking podium can.
So I'm gonna, we have a lot of hands up. So
Mhm.
if you could answer these two questions really briefly.
Sure.
Does your there is some underground parking, is that correct?
Under each building, there's one level of
And does it
subterranean.
go all the way to property line, or is it pretty much focused under the building?
It's under the building.
Okay.
So it
So
may
that-
go to the property line in some cases.
So that leads me to my final comment is that
Mhm.
there's a significant grove of sycamore trees at the eastern side of the site, which I'm sure you're well aware of. I think if there's real earth to be had, it sounds like there might be, if the parking is truly under the buildings, that a robust tree program that includes a sincere replacement of those large tree canopies that exist, to just make this a healthy tree environment would be great. In my opinion, I think one of the big detriments of underground parking is that everything you have on top of it is a planter, which cannot grow a tree forever. Okay, so I'm gonna just go down. I will just call them as I see them. Donna Jones. Donna? Okay, Donna, we'll come back to you.
Sorry,
Oh, there
sorry.
you go. There you go.
I had to, I'm terrible. I'm really slow. I wanted to bring up if there are cars, even at that, you have people who visit and people who drive to the area and don't park. Are there considerations of having permit parking in the neighborhoods around? That way, that would take away the concerns of the neighbors. So that's just something I wanted to put forth. I don't want an answer to it, but if permit parking is brought to the community, then that will eliminate the amount of cars dropped into the community.
Jasmine. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, number one, I'm very excited to see that you all are exploring additional pathways to make this building affordable, because it's definitely one of the concerns I raised in the past, and I know other folks have raised. And it's also exciting to see that you are aiming to have a diverse set of affordable units as well. So I really do appreciate the efforts to do so. I guess my question was just clarification around what you meant by this being a condition of your approval. So it sounds like you're looking at hearing back about whether or not you'll receive these vouchers sometime next year, but you all would receive the entitlement right in December if you pass CPC regardless, or they would be contingent upon you receiving that those voucher approvals in the future.
Correct. So, and thank you for your comments. The approval would be contingent on, if we get the vouchers, we would have to use those vouchers and make it affordable per the proposed program below. We don't have full control over whether we get the vouchers because it's a competitive environment and there's a limit of vouchers that are available. And basically the housing authority has to decide about where they allocate vouchers across the city. We feel like we have a really good chance because this is such a prominent project. And I think it's also a novel use of the vouchers to provide for a range of affordability. I think one of the concerns that always come up and mostly from the NIMBY crowd is when you have concentrated low income buildings and there's really a desire to find ways to create mixed income projects throughout the city. So I think there's a lot of enthusiasm about getting these vouchers, but to specifically answer your question, the entitlements we will get the entitlements with a condition that if we're awarded the vouchers, we have to proceed with the affordable, 100% affordable. We can't say we changed our mind. We don't want the vouchers anymore. We're going to, market rents doubled and now we want to build a market rate project. But I want to be clear that there's the caveat that's if we never get awarded the vouchers, then we will be allowed to proceed with just 20% affordable set aside. So
vouchers, everybody, are a form of subsidy, and this is project based. So tenants have to use their voucher here, unlike Section 8, which they can bring anywhere they want that to a landlord that will take them. So do you ever, just on top of that, is there a affordable housing provider that you're partnering with? Is that West Angeles, or is there going to be somebody else?
It is West Angeles, and the Housing Authority itself would become a partner in the project, and they would provide services for affordable housing as well. But the social services and the day-to-day nonprofit work would be done through our partner, West Angeles CDC.
Great, thanks. Marisha.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
I just wanted to say that everything looks good. If I could approve it for you, it's been so long. Can we just
Thank
say?
you.
I wanted to mention that I agree with John, and I'm pretty sure the other woman that was on earlier, Teresa, I believe, that's mentioning about the trees. Generally, the replacement of trees ends up being saplings or whatever it's called when you need the two sticks of wood in order to hold the tree up because it's going to fall over. The area has lost a lot of trees just from, the rocket ship coming in and all the different things that our trees end up coming down. I would love to see a commitment, if it's not necessarily from you, but from the rest of the partnerships that you have, if it's Los Angeles or Metro, or even the County of Los Angeles, since they're the owner of the other parcel of land, to commit to the trees so that it's not solely the burden falling on you. Well, why not you personally.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I actually have a question. You mentioned you started talking about this, and you may have already answered the question, but I wanted to know if your affordable housing for the project with the vouchers or without the voucher, if it will be for the life of the building itself, or if it will change.
Great question. So let me first address that I hear you, all three of you, about the trees. I need to look at where the footprint is for the sycamores that you're talking about. I know there's one very prominent one on the Metro site that we know we're going to have to be, that is going to be required to be saved, replanted, and then brought back. There was a tree survey that was done here. There was, I think, part of the environmental study is a tree study. And I will follow up with the findings of that. I'm pretty sure that we have some requirements to salvage some of the old growth trees. And I also thank you for suggesting that this is not just our responsibility, because our footprint is limited to the building. Metro controls, and as does LA County, these right of ways. So we don't have Watt and the development team don't have full control of what's happening in these public plazas. So I'll need to see, within whose footprint and control the trees fall. But that's something I can follow up on between this meeting and the board meeting, where we'll be coming back to UNNC, I think, in early December. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I very much can picture those little saplings with the two sticks. So I recognize that's not a replacement.
There's one other part to the question. How long is the affordability component?
Yes. So I was going to get to that. We're on a ground lease that's going to be 65 years. By law, you generally go 55 years on the affordability covenants. I need to confirm if there's any reason we can't go coterminous with the ground lease. I know the city is looking at longer term covenants, but the project reverts back to Metro and LA County after 65 years, no matter what. So there is this 10-year gap, and we as the developer, we're open to, there's no real value to us to switching it to market rate. It's going to be structured as an affordable project. And so that's something that may come up at Planning Commission. We were told by the city staff that that's something that we know the city is looking at, just having, 99 years or perpetual affordability. But right now, in full disclosure, we're required to do 55 years and the ground lease is 65 years. So there's this weird 10-year gap between what was asked of us. But there's really no reason for us not to tie the two together.
So thank you. So 12 minutes until 8:30.
Oh,
I want to,
yep.
we have an item after this. So
Sure.
I'm going to take, we have 3 more hands up. Laura, you're
Okay.
next. If we can see if we can wrap up our discussion by 8:28 or so, and
Sure.
then make do you want to go through design stuff? Laura, ask your question.
I'll just flip through it quick.
Mine's real quick. Well, it's a comment and a thing. So what Jen was referring to way earlier about the feedback I was getting, Laura, for UNNC, we did get a whole lot of, UNNC did get a whole lot of feedback, both in email and then at the public hearing, regarding the false notion that we had voted for 0 parking. So that's the context of, that's not what we had done. And Jen, I don't think you have the answer tonight because you probably would have already mentioned it. But one of the things we've been talking about lately at UNNC is Quimby funds. So I hope by the 2nd, I think it's December 2nd, but at the board meeting, if you can have any sense of what the Quimby funds would be and which parks they might apply to. So, but I do agree with that. We need to move forward quickly now.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Taylor.
I'm just curious. So it's a pretty big plot of land. Why is it so short?
Great question. So by TOC standards, you could go, I think it's up to 7 stories, but based on the West Adams, Crenshaw, Lamert, Baldwin Hills, I'm probably misquoting it, neighborhood plan that was adopted shortly after this RFP was complete, there is a height limit that we are actually exceeding by, I believe, 12 feet. So we're getting, that's one of our asks at CPC is to get an extension or to go a little bit higher than the neighborhood plan allows. So there's a legitimate height limit here that contradicts the TOC, which came out after the community plan was drafted, I believe.
Government land is subject to those height restrictions?
Yes.
So what is that height going to be?
I don't know off the top of my head. Let's see. I might have it here in some of my appendices. If not, I'll follow up with Laura. It's 5 stories over two stories of podium.
Right, and I'll just jump in. Crenshaw Boulevard in the West Adams, Baldwin Hills, the Merck plan, most of it had a max of 7 stories.
So, and just so everyone knows, once you go over that height, there's a very physical cap too, that it takes you out of wood construction. You have to go to concrete, which is vastly more expensive. And there's no, if you go 1 more story, it just becomes prohibitively expensive. Okay, sorry, I keep talking. Jasmine, your hand's up again.
Yes, I just had a quick follow-up. Thank you for the clarification around the conditional approval. Just wondering if, I'm fingers crossed that you guys get the vouchers, but if you don't, do you plan to continue pursuing funding? And do you all pursuing this this funding source mean that you all weren't able to secure the funding from the county that would have allowed you to at least increase the affordable units to 50%?
So we will continue to look for funding. We've very publicly made the commitment to increase the amount of affordable units at this project. It's a very competitive environment for a smaller and smaller pool of public subsidy for affordable housing. At some point, we are also subject to Metro and LA County timelines that if we don't build something here within a set amount of time, we will lose our ability to be the developer of this project. And we have so much riding on this, this development and a lot of political pressure to also build the housing that needs to be delivered here, that at some point there will be a decision where we have to proceed and just build something. But we will continue to tap into other resources if we can't get the HACLA vouchers. There are a couple of other paths that we will pursue, but that's really, I think, the most direct and streamlined way to get it done.
Thank you.
Gotcha, thank you.
So do you want to go through, I know you've been scrolling through just for visual enjoyment. Do you want to go through the design features that you can highlight?
You know, I have an eye on time, so I want to be sensitive to your schedule here. It's really the key things that we got from planning staff were how people were worried about color. This blue is really with a nod towards the Vision Theater in Leimert. And there was also, this is the parking structure. So we got a lot of planning staff commentary on how to clad it and make it live habitable, creating activity on the ground floor. So I just wanted to share some of these new elevations, but they're not fully rendered, so they're not quite what I would want to show publicly. So I just wanted to share some of the direction things were going. That's something that came up last time. So that's it. Unless anyone has any questions.
I have a question. What kinds of design review hoops do you still have to go through? And
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So we're done. So we went through Urban Design Studio, or PVP, I think as it's called, with the city. And then we've had 3 rounds of comments with planning staff. We've also been through Metro's design review. So our final entitlement and design commentary opportunity is at CPC. That's our decision-making body.
Right, and that's what we're leading up to. And when approximately is that scheduled yet?
December 16th.
December 16th. Thank you, Laura.
Well, I'm curious just about process, Jen. So I know that there was a public hearing with a hearing officer at the planning staff on the 7th of July, I think. And then they create a report that they're giving to the planning commission, correct? Staff recommendation report. But it sounds like in between then and now, they've already implemented some of their thoughts and asked you to do this, that, and the other thing. Is that right?
Correct. And it's been a weird pathway on this project. So the only entitlement hearing that we have is actually, we had the joint hearing examiner hearing, right, and then city planning commission. The plum and city council hearings were to adopt the SKIA and the vesting tentative track map. So
so I'm sorry. So the joint hearing with the advisory agency is not, they're not doing a staff report for planning commission. That was their own? No, they're doing a staff report for planning commission. Okay. So what I'm not understanding is, in the interim, they've asked you to change things. So will there be
staff has,
yeah. So will the city planning commission itself be a new public hearing, since this is not what the public saw on July 7th? If you know.
That is correct. The city planning commission will hold a public hearing. There will be a separate staff report that incorporates the whatever was noted at the advisory agency meeting, joint hearing examiner hearing. So all of those notes and commentary are folded into the staff report that gets sent out before CPC. And then there will be a separate planning staff presentation. We will do a presentation. All of it is a public hearing. And then a decision will be made at that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Any suggestions about how we approach our outcome for this evening? Laura, it seems to me we have one more shot, if we can't come to a consensus tonight, to have a P&Z at the next or the following, and then still have governing board vote in December, though December's might be a little chunky because it's the holiday celebration that we usually have.
Well, we had already essentially voted and just asked for a final design update. So this isn't quite that yet either. I mean, in other words, I think, Teresa, you had made some suggestions on landscaping and trees, and otherwise we had just accepted the massing, scale, number of units. I mean, in other words, we were sort of saying, approve that. We'd like to see any design updates. And
So
we had asked
could
for something with the trees and landscaping.
And we could enhance our
Mhm.
approval, I think. We could adjust it because there is new information.
Correct.
There's some changes, especially regarding affordability. So we could either respond to that in some way. So I think we can do whatever we want. So I think if we wanted to amend our original approval, as it were, or and send something to the governing board for either an affirmation or a change or something.
Right. Teresa's nodding her head when I said I thought Teresa had suggestions.
Yeah, I just didn't want to add more to make this conversation longer. If we're going to have a chance to talk to them again, John's already mentioned the trees, so I'm not going to add anything else because I know we have other things on the agenda.
Right. Yeah, John, I mean, the main thing is, the question would be, do we force them to come, maybe they like our presence, but force them to come to yet another P&Z just so we can have a motion, meaning come December 1st, so we can have a motion for December 2nd, or can this essentially go with our original motion? You know, in other words, we don't need a new motion, they just come to the governing board. You know, that's sort of up to the chair, and the chair does not necessarily have to decide tonight. The chair may wish to talk again.
I don't think there's going to be anything substantive changes that would require representation. So I would recommend that we maybe make an amendment if we see fit, either applause or we want to see this change, and just amend it and not have them come back, because I don't think there's anything in their world that they're going to be responding to, except they had their sites on CPC.
Well, they need to come back to governing board for us to finalize our motion, but I don't know if they need to come back to P&Z.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yep. Marisha, you have what's
just really quickly, and again, not to solely fall on you, Watt, but I think Metro would be perfect for this portion of it. If you guys recall, for the development project that's on Crenshaw and Pico, how we discussed ride sharing with, you know, Uber and all of that stuff to make sure that is a possibility. And so with now at this point, a few years later, with Instacart, with dropping off, with thinking to the future, with probably autonomous cars picking people up, do we have an access point for cars to be able to go through to pick up? And you don't even have to answer that now. I don't even want to throw that on you, but maybe a possibility to think about before it gets approved, or to even involve Metro, because their transportation, and that's something that they should be looking at as well for the future.
Right.
We do have pickup spots, and Metro has their own, I think they call it micro rides program. That's like Uber that they will be working on for this project. And we have a bike hub and a scooter hub. So there's been a lot of thought put into first mile, last mile, and drop off zones. Even TOD has required us to really study where Uber will stop, because we can't have them do it on Crenshaw.
So I'm going to just throw it out there, just so we can send something that shows that we're paying attention to the governing board, that we had a lot of questions that were clarified. I'd like to invite the applicant to bring those answers to the board regarding affordability, vouchers. And then, so I think the thing that we could affirm is that I did hear, and I agree with this comment, that the affordability component and the variability from 30 to 50 to 80% AMI is a good thing, and we welcome that. And I think we should support that, and that's something that's new. I think having a tree study, whether it's saving existing trees and or ensuring that any new trees are viable and robust and in real soil, and then creates a treed environment. I think we can add that to either a recommendation, or if the applicant wants to include that in their discussion tomorrow or next month, whenever it goes to the governing board. Quimby funds, I heard. And then I think that's it for anything new. Otherwise,
Quimby.
Yeah, you have Quimby, but that's a clarification, I think.
Oh yeah, they're not going to know a final answer, but just some discussion.
So I mean, Quimby fees will exist. It's where they go. So what's the pleasure of the committee?
Well, again, I wonder what the pleasure is of Jen, Armin, Tony, and Erica. If they want to see us again on the 1st of December quickly before the board meeting the next night, that's fine. If it's just too crowded on their agenda, that's also fine, because we didn't say you have to keep coming over and over and over again.
Well, if we can provide responses or provide just the update on the affordability and the other items at the at the meeting on the 1st, I think that would work, because what we ultimately would like to get is a letter of support and approval of the project. You guys have basically said that you like the project and you want us to come back with any design changes and stuff, and we should have we'll have those finalized, I believe, in another week or so. But I think the ultimate thing is to we love to have your support at the commission for the commission hearing on the 16th.
Okay, well then, John, let me suggest a path. I forgot about the letter of support. I think what we need to do is have a draft letter of support. Well, a draft letter of comment, which is probably supportive, right? At P&Z on the 1st, so we can present a recommendation on that letter on the 2nd.
Okay.
I think that's what we need to do.
And I don't think the applicant needs to be there in full. If they want to be there, that's great. But I think we have enough fodder to draft that based on the comments for this evening. So I'm going to say we don't take any motion tonight, but we agendize it for the first meeting in December, and we'll bring a draft letter to the board.
Right. So that's December 1 for the us and December 2 for the board.
Great.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Okay. If anyone has any dissent, please let me know. Otherwise, let's move on.
Thank
you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming again. Next up, item number 6. We have a draft review the draft of the Mobility and Transportation Subcommittee, which was put in place by the board a few months ago, and Taylor Fife is going to present again. I mean, he had some ideas at one point a few months ago. So this is the draft mission statement for that subcommittee. And Taylor, take it away. Taylor is the chair of that subcommittee.
Taylor, are you able to share? I did make you a co-host, or do you want me to?
Either one. Looks like I have the button, so
there you go.
I have the button. I'll do it. All right. So I was gonna say I kept it simple, but it's 2 pages, so maybe it's not that simple. But it's simpler than it was before when I was showing in the previous draft that I showed. So mission statement. So the top thing that I have here is like, well, really, what does a subcommittee do? What's the actual like purpose? And I think I was just thinking about what's the purpose of a neighborhood council in general. And I think the main things that we want to do are learning, educating, and advocating. So we want to be a place where community members can learn about transportation in the community, about what's happening, what the new projects that might occur. We want to inform. So I guess on here I said I guess you could flip these either way. Either we could inform members of the community, or we could inform local leaders, and then local leaders could either learn, or we could learn about their projects. So these are kind of 2 sides of the same coin. Then the last thing is advocating. This is kind of the main purpose of a neighborhood council, is advocating for our area. So this is primarily going to be a city thing. LADOT, we're a city agency, so that makes the most sense. But really, when it comes down to it, the most of the transportation activity taking place that's most visible, the buses, the trains, this is county level stuff. I don't think they'll reject our letters just because we're a neighborhood council and we don't report to them. I think Metro would totally consider us their stakeholders. Probably less commonly, maybe we do stuff to MetroLink, and even the state, probably mostly LADOT and Metro. So then the next thing that I went to here was more statement of values. So like when something comes before us, if Metro has a proposition, or if the community wants to make a statement, or we have some project that we want to promote or advocate for, what kinds of projects do we want to take action on? So I think this was the main idea. You know, there are any number of potential projects out there that we could be interested in. Bus lanes, bike lanes, fixing sidewalks, adding a stoplight, adding a stop sign, adding speed cameras, who knows what. There's thousands of ideas. Electric car chargers, it could be anything. So like what's the thing that makes something a good project or a bad project? So I chose safe, equitable, accessible, sustainable. And then this last one's not an adjective, so it's transportation should promote livability. This is one that I added after our discussion last time. So, and then I just have very simple statements here. Safety first, seems pretty clear that you don't want to be harmed physically when you're walking around or biking or driving around. Promoting equity, this is a very top priority of Metro. I think it should be a top priority of the UNNC. LADOT talks about this too. Equity is a great goal. Accessibility, very, very important. This is actually a really fun fact, but people who are disabled are less likely to drive than people who are able-bodied. So accessibility and transportation, I think, is really, really important. A lot of handicaps are related to mobility issues. So really focusing on accessibility, I think, is super important. And then sustainability, another fun fact, transportation is California's single biggest source of carbon emissions. So thinking about sustainability in terms of environmental sustainability is really important. And then just the longevity of our of the projects that we do. You don't want to build a project that becomes obsolete or infeasible just in a few years. Then the livability, this one's new. So I made a little comment here about the 10 freeway, that 10 freeway seems great. Moving lots of people from one side of LA to the next, like, accomplishes a lot of goals as far as transportation goes, very convenient. But there's really a lot of damage that the 10 freeway did to this community that we live in. Huge environmental cost, health cost, tearing communities apart, literally demolishing homes. So just because a project seems like it will get you from one place to the other really quickly doesn't mean it's a project that we should support. And then I just threw on some example types of activities. I think hosting representatives from LADOT and Metro to talk about things. Interestingly enough, somebody from Metro contacted me and asked me if they wanted to come, we wanted to have them come talk about the bus lanes they want to put on La Brea. So haven't responded yet, but something like that could be really cool. Host them, talk about their projects. Get input from community members, draft motions of support, and then highlight areas where we think we need changes. I kept these vague. I didn't mention any specific projects again, just too many interesting types of projects to name. But I think these are kind of common things that we would do on any given project.
Great, thanks, Taylor. Anyone have any questions, comments, observations? Laura.
Okay, two things. I think a lot of our community members have spent a lot of time over more than a decade and to this day talking about traffic calming measures. So it might be nice to have, it could even be just another bullet point, an example of activities, advocate for traffic calming. In other words, you don't have to change the mission statement, but a not fun fact that I got today in my email is the number of fatalities that, let's see if I'm going to try and pull this up real quickly. There was just, I subscribe to something called Crosstown LA, and they focused on fatal traffic accidents in their e-blast today. And in our area, according to their statistics, I don't know the source, in the last year we had, broadly speaking, 21 fatal accidents, which is news to me. So that quote area is what they call Jefferson Park, combining Jefferson Park, Arlington Heights, and Harvard Heights. But what that really is about Exposition from Crenshaw to maybe Normandy and maybe Vermont. I mean, I don't know how far east it goes, all the way north to about 11th, so a little bit north of Olympic, and west to Crenshaw, but it also includes Victoria Park. So it's a little bit bigger than our footprint, but I'm astonished. I've actually emailed and say, please tell me where exactly and how many of those were car to car versus car to pedestrian. But I think I've only heard of one fatal accident. Taylor, by where you live on Adams near Bronson or Montclair or 13, around there this last year. So I don't know where they got their statistics, but I do think if it's correct, that we need to find out more and advocate on that.
Yeah, so just to comment real quickly on that. So I think traffic calming is a great idea. I'm excited for the to vote on the letter that Dennis wrote at the next full meeting. I really like it. You remember in my previous draft of this, I had a big long list at the end of this that was like potential ideas, and it was filled up like 2 pages of ideas. So I was kind of trying to get away from like specifics and kind of talk more about like missions and the mission and the values. But I think when you say traffic calming and I look at the values that I have here, I think that that they really fit together. Safety obviously is a big one, but livability and the rest.
Okay.
Michael.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. So Taylor, I've never heard the term traffic calming before this evening, but I love it. Wondering about some specifics. For instance, yesterday I was driving south on Arlington mid-afternoon and noticed that traffic is slowed up by parking on the right lane. Is that something that you would be able to take on or would be interested in being part of your mission?
Yeah, well, so I think like if the suggestion is remove a parking lane and turn it into a travel lane on southbound Arlington, maybe
just not Arlington. I mean, in general, some of these thoroughfares that only have 2 lanes and allow parking, I just think that we've gotten to a point in this city where some thoroughfares just should not allow to have parking at any time. It's inconvenient.
Yeah,
it's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, so I'm trying to going back to the same comment I had to Laura, which is I think for the mission statement, that there's like an infinite number of projects we could potentially do, and I think for a mission statement of like what is the purpose of the committee and what are we trying to do as a committee, I think it makes more sense to not have a specific, like to get too specific.
No. I was not asking you to be specific in the mission statement. What I was trying to understand is that something that would be part of your mission with the Committee on Mobility and Transportation.
Part of the mission in a general sense and not part of the mission as written in the mission statement, or
yes.
I mean, I think traffic flow is absolutely going to be something that we're interested in. I can tell you personally that I think that this is maybe controversial. I think that this area is dramatically overparked. I think that there's just a lot of parking spaces, that are unused and never used. I look out my door and it's just a sea of unused parking spaces. So I love the idea of using parking spaces for something else besides parking. So I think that's a great idea. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Marissa, I'm sorry, is it Marisha or Marisha?
Marisha.
Thank you, Marisha.
What did I want to say? Oh, okay. So I've been involved with Metro and their TBAC, Transportation Business Advisory Council, and attending their meetings and making recommendations on various projects that Metro has, probably as long as I've been involved with UNNC. I got my start with the Expo line. All of that being said, I think that the way that you decide to form your committee, you could reach a greater impact if you view it from a standpoint of leveraging your contact with Metro and leveraging how large UNNC and collectively all the neighborhood councils are, but specifically you guys, with their development projects. So what I've learned over the years is their money and their funding and what they pay attention to varies. And it could be specifically for something that's over on Santa Monica. And actually, I'm going to give you an example of something. So the Vermont thoroughfare, in the Metro meetings, they'll talk about Vermont and Santa Monica Station, Vermont and Wilshire. They'll mention USC, and they literally skipped over everything until they got to Harbor City. So if you're skipping over their entire community, but you have funding for certain things, here's a second example. The Crenshaw LAX line has yet to be open, but the phases for the Purple Line have continued or have accelerated. So I think if you advocate for businesses, community development, for the economic development, you could use your leverage in a greater fashion. And I can help you guys if you want with some of that. And that's all.
I would love your help. I'm new to this. We're just writing the mission statement. I don't know what I'm doing. In a very real sense, I don't know how to be impactful. I don't know the best way to advocate. So absolutely, I would love any advice and help that you could possibly offer. And a better way for me to say this would probably be that whatever you're up to, I would love to help and watch what you do.
Great, thank you, Jasmine.
Hi, thank you, Taylor, for putting this together and really being intentional and thoughtful about it. I just wanted to know, was wondering if I think that this is, like I said, this seems like a very useful document, especially to sort of guide the work of the subcommittee, even past, your tenure, all of our tenures. And as far as like equity go, and I appreciate you mentioning like the impacts of the 10 freeway on here as well. But I'm wondering if it's possible to include some language around like, redressing, historical discriminatory policies and practices, or being explicit about, addressing issues of race or other sort of impacts on marginalized communities. So I think it's important to note those things, because we know it wasn't just, the 10 freeway, just kind of randomly destroyed a community, was, very intentional in destroying a Black community. So I think it's important to uplift that, but not to leave out any other marginalized populations, but making sure we're explicit about like we need to address, the historical impacts of discriminatory policies and ensure that they're not persisting in the policies today. So as Marisha was sort of alluding to, like making sure that we're not perpetuating and continuing to act in ways that disenfranchise particular groups of people and particular communities.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. Taylor, do you have any, do you want to comment on everyone as they come up? It might be.
Sure. I think that's a great suggestion. This section on equity is quite short. It's only 3 sentences, but I think adding a sentence that addresses your what you just said is a great idea. And I think I might just add it right here where you can see I'm typing now.
Michael.
Yeah, one more quick comment, if you will. I'd be interested, Taylor, in knowing what your thoughts are on the latest changes that have been made on Adams west of La Brea. I've driven it since they've included the bike lanes, and I've noticed that it's a lot more congested, which kind of, in my mind, lends to maybe less people taking that venue, which would create less congestion. And I just wanted to know what you thought about it. And since you're apparently going to be our point person for that kind of interfacing from this point forward.
Oh, I have lots of opinions on the Adams bike lane. So I'm glad you asked. So so the purpose of the bike lane that they added there was to it's a safety project. So the Adams, like Laura was saying, it's Adams is one of the most dangerous streets in Los Angeles. There's been a very large number of fairly grisly deaths on that stretch. It's on the high injury network in LA. So LADOT was looking for ways to reduce the number of traffic deaths. So this was an interesting idea that, the point of getting rid of a lane is to make people drive slower. So the increase in congestion that you're seeing is intentional and the actual purpose of the project. So I like that to some extent. Obviously, I think we should be trying to get rid of grisly deaths, including one that was just about 2 years ago on Thanksgiving 2019, when a man was hit on a crosswalk and then dragged over a mile to the gas station by my house, where they recovered his mangled body. So a lot of stories like those happening on Adams. So I think it was good that they did something. I drive on that street a lot. I walk down that street way more than I drive on it. It's the corner I live on. It appears to me that it was not done particularly thoughtfully, because the bike lanes are just used by the cars still, and you just have effectively 2 lanes of traffic still, but now it's cars just driving through a bike lane, and that seems to be occurring every rush hour in the morning. And I find it to be probably less safe than it was before, and really obvious that was going to happen. I made comments before the project that if you're going to put a bike lane in, you should protect it so that cars don't drive in it. And the chief engineer of the project, it was like he had never heard of something like that before. So I think LADOT maybe has not ridden a lot of bicycles, or maybe not observed a lot of bike lanes, how they're used in practice. So I think they did not. I do think there's some major issues with what they did there.
Okay, thank you.
Teresa.
Thanks, John. Taylor, just from a practical point of view, most of the mission statements on our webpage are about a paragraph, even though they can be longer. But if there was a paragraph that was sort of concise, that might help. And also, do you think you'd want your own page on our webpage?
Sure. Yeah, I think a web page would be appropriate. Yeah, maybe I went a little overboard on the statement. I could make
No, 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 this,
sub-statement.
no, the statement is great. I've been working with Laura and Raheem, just kind of having some consistency on our webpage. So most of we're trying to get the gist of each mission statement to be a paragraph or some bullet points, but preferably a paragraph. So, but if you have your own page, then you could have the paragraph and then you could list everything underneath it in more detail. So I was just trying to get some feedback. Thank you.
So I have just a comment. So this is a subcommittee of planning and zoning. So we're probably one of the more regular committees. So you're riding on the coattails of our busyness. And I think just about every topic we come up with that's in front of us, with the notable exception of oil drilling, involves something to do with parking or transportation or some response to it. So I think you will always be welcome to put your subcommittee's perspective on what we're seeing. I think as time goes on, we'll probably have opportunities through your projects, or at least through an opinion on something, to create stances. Like we have a pretty strong stance on what Washington Boulevard wants to be. And that has rippled through the years. We reiterate that so we can eventually, I think, have a stance of like, is UNC's traditional stance on bike lanes on boulevards to be blah, blah, blah. So I think whenever there's a change involved, you'll be welcome to reiterate those, add more as needed as the years go on. So I think there's an automatic integration with what we do here at Planning and Zoning that you can be part of, in addition to the projects that either you bring forth or others bring forth that will be under your umbrella. So that's just a general comment. I'm not sure I'm just thinking you said giving yourself a framework. I think that framework is built in, and that was just a comment that I had. Laura.
Yeah, and to Teresa's point, to the broad point, I think this is a document we could take forward to the neighborhood council for approval. Again, it has to be a month from now, as the subcommittee's mission, which at some point might be, this may morph into its own committee and not a subcommittee. And then for the website statement, you could go back to sort of the mission and the values, and just write them as not bullet points, but instead sort of summary sentences. Like, in other words, transportation should be safe, equitable, accessible, sustainable, and should promote livability, would be the sentence in a paragraph or a paragraph and a half on the website. So I think we'll find that as we look at the mission statements are not identical in format. So some are really short and some are not so much. So we're going to have to make them consistent. I think I agree with Teresa for the web, because people might not want, for the upfront things. And I think, Teresa, is what you have in mind that there's a page that has all the committees listed with each of the mission statements and a click, and you can get to their full page?
I'm not sure. I don't want to waste John's time and Taylor's time on the webpage, Laura, but the way it is now, when you go into a committee, the mission statement is there, and then there's some information, who the chair is, when their meetings are held, things like that. So some similar format, I guess.
Okay, right. Because it could be a summary, because also the document that I utilize to appoint chairs doesn't list the whole mission statements either. It's a summary. So we'll figure that out, but let's get this approved first and then summarize it second.
Okay, so I think we are in a position to, we have a few suggestions for amendments. So we're in a position to entertain a motion just to send something to the governing board.
Well, I would move to move the mission statement of the UNNC subcommittee on mobility and transportation forward to the governing board with the amendments suggested primarily by Jasmine.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I second.
Great, thanks, Teresa.
Well, Taylor, is that okay with you?
Totally, yes.
Okay.
And I will have this changed from a suggestion in brackets.
Yeah.
Sentence.
And Jasmine can certainly email you with specific language if she wishes. But this would again be the December meeting, not tomorrow night. but we need to vote.
So I'm writing that Laura moves to approve the mission and value statement for the Mobility and Transportation Subcommittee.
As amended.
And, yep, Transportation Subcommittee. As with suggested amendments.
Right.
And I think that's it.
Correct.
So so let's call the vote. Please raise a virtual or real hand as you see fit. I see a lot of hands. I think we're all there. It's Taylor, you can vote on this.
And he did. He raised his real hand.
So that is unanimous. We have a unanimous vote on that. So thank you very much, Taylor. Great. We got some business done. We look forward to having a perspective on this arm of our land use work at future meetings and our future work for the neighborhood council. Okay. Unanimous approval. Great. Okay, that I believe, and just a follow up. Thank you, Taylor. Item number 7, follow up to previous cases and any old business. Laura, I have none. Do you have anything?
Other than none that my brain is holding firm. Other than as I mentioned, the housing element is sitting at council doing something right now. There was discussion at the hearing yesterday at Plum from commentary from people saying, why are you rushing it through? You should take a little more time. It's not actually due to the state until February. And the council members on the Plum committee did question staff as to why are they rushing. But again, it got very confusing, and I don't know if they just agreed to rush or if they're bringing it back. It was really hard to understand what they did in the end after a 3-hour hearing. So
just anecdotally, I was at an event for work and I bumped into one of the decision makers on the housing element. And I said, did you see our letter? And he said, yes, we did. It was circulated. It was one of the most thorough and thoughtful letters that we saw. And he appreciated the input that we had. So it did not go into a black hole, which was my fear. It is being read, at least by that one random person I ran into. And so good work, everybody. It has been recognized by at least somebody. If we can extrapolate that, there might be others out there. So
right. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to make any changes to the actual housing element. Yeah. However, if they respected our work, they're going to respect what we say on project processing when we say, yeah. So it's a good thing.
Yes, it was noted as a good, thoughtful, intelligent effort. So
right. And the only other thing I'm going to say, Taylor, this affects you. The training for Planning 101, they just finally got it into the Cornerstone portal and immediately said, and you have to have it done by December 1. It's like, oh yay, a lot of notice. But anyway, so I'm gonna email again to Dunn and say it's Taylor, Chris, and well, anybody who wants to do it can, but who's mandatory is Taylor, Chris Carlson, and Steve Peckman. So I have to get them to figure out how Steve Peckman takes it. But the memo from Dunn that came out yesterday within the UNNC profile buried is that the deadline is December 1.
It's basically, it's a seminar, it's a podcast you can put on your car or on your pods and just listen.
The news here is that the deadline is December 1 and now you can take it. And it's like, oh, good.
So just trying to note that it's not that painful. It's
no,
not like you have to answer
questions. Boring. It's just boring.
Okay, any other old business anyone wants to discuss? Okay, hearing none, I am going to find my agenda. I think that's the end. Our next next meeting is 2 weeks from today, which will be the 17th.
Right.
And so I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much. It's 9:07. Sorry when it went a little over, but thanks for everyone and all your active participation and great comments.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey,
Laura, I have
Sure.
one quick note. I'm gonna get on a plane in like 20 minutes.
Hey.
And I'm gonna be out of town and won't be able to make the meeting tomorrow.
Okay. All
So,
right, noted, so noted.
So Dennis will have to present the
His own, yeah.
the letter himself, which I'm sure he's more than capable of doing.
Well, when I talked to him today, he said, isn't Taylor doing it? So I guess I'll call him back tomorrow and say, no, I'll share the screen for you, Dennis, but you have to present. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
John,
Bye.
just hold on a second,
Oh,
John.
wait, I gotta save the chat. I
I haven't turned off the meeting yet.
And John, I just wanted to say, I haven't talked, I'm going to attend the CFAC meeting tomorrow,
Okay.
and I will ask Isabel then, but I have not talked to her. I don't even know if she is even amenable to doing a presentation outside of the CFAC group. So, but I will ask her, and if she is, then I will just do an email to both of you, to all three of us, for her to talk to you to see if it's something. I just thought it was really interesting, some of the ideas that she, some of the slides and stuff like that. So
Sure, that sounds great.
okay, thank you. Okay,
Thanks.
good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay, now can I end the meeting?
Yeah, I wasn't.
You
Make
said
sure
you
the
got
chat
the
is safe.
chat?
Yes, I says chat safe. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.